that an insurance agency could actually be a trap. It could be just another job that you think that you're running. They say a fun joke is that I left my 9 to 5 so that I could start my own business, and now I work every day of my life. There's nothing more true than that, than the truth of that, starting a business. When you're new and you're the guy running it or girl running it and you just got to grow the whole thing, it's a lot of work. There's a ton of stuff. If you're new to the insurance industry or just business in general, you've got to get the lawyers involved. You've got to get the LLCs set up, the E&O insurance for errors and omissions, at least in our world. You've got to get, if you have an employee, which we have, you got to have the unemployment taxes and unemployment savings and just a ton of stuff. That doesn't include all of the software, which I actually talked about in another video. I'll link it at the end if you're interested in learning about kind of the ins and outs and the cost of running an agency. My partner and I were actually talking about that there is kind of a rat race almost in this industry, even owning the company, than there is at a job. In all honesty, the people that are the agents are the ones that are making out if they have a good commission structure. Let me explain. Today's a perfect example because I had so much stuff going on from the day before that it was almost overwhelming. I actually had 1, 2, 3, almost 5 referrals yesterday, and I didn't even get all of them done. So I spent way too much time on one policy, which I'll make another video about that kind of goes over what we did and some of the struggles and the things I shouldn't have done. Anyways, I started the day off, got into work actually early, and the downfall was I wasn't prepared. Like I wasn't ready to start my day. I took my goal sheet and I didn't fill it out. I looked at it and I ripped off the sheet and I said, okay, I got to do what I did yesterday. And it just was a blah day. And that's kind of where we lean into where agency owners can't do that. That's not an option for you. You need to move forward. If nobody's writing the business, then you're responsible to write the business to keep the lights on. And days like today where I'm not writing that type of business, working on it slowly and just relaxing a little bit more than I should is one of those luxuries that I don't have right now. Any agency owner when you're starting off or any business when you're starting off has to have the money coming in. That's the number one piece of your business. If you don't have the clients, there's nothing to go forward with. You might as well just work a 9 to 5 and actually make a decent income. This is where we can get into agents versus agency owners actually have a little bit of a better scenario. It sounds weird because I always fight for the people getting your own book, owning it, running it, all of that stuff. That's a little bit different than what I'm talking about because most agents, when they work for an agency, are going to be compensated, but they don't technically have the ownership of what they're writing. So if they walk out the door, it doesn't matter. Whatever they wrote stays with that agency. Some companies even have you sign a non-disclosure or a non-compete, so you can't go back after that business if you keep in the industry. There's a lot. Right? That's kind of where everything comes into play, where if you're starting your own agency or you have an agency, you got to remember a few things. I was looking at our past company who, when I left, a lot of employees left as well. And it wasn't that I was amazing and then I left and they all followed me because I was great. It was that there was just a lot of things that most of us didn't agree with. But they were just left with this huge book of business that now they're no longer paying agents on. So their whole focus was or is retention. If they can retain that business and keep it, then they're going to get extra money. It sounds great, but there's a few pieces that you're not thinking of. Let's kind of explain the benefits of that. Let's just say there was $20 million in this agency A, and all of their salespeople either got fired or let go. Now there's just service people that you have some overhead, you've got some things that you have to work on, and maybe you have some sub companies that are writing business for you where you just get a small commission. You're not on the hook for anything right now. So you have that $20 million book of business, and you're making, in our world, about 12%. If you're getting 12% on $20 million, that's $2.4 million of revenue. Let's just say you pay $500,000 or $400,000 out to the employees that are servicing the book. You've got 5 service people at $60,000 a year, so now you're $300,000, right? So you've got that, plus you have a couple managers, so maybe you're, let's just say, $500,000. That leaves you with $1.9 million worth of revenue. That sounds awesome. You got rent and you got technology and all of the different things and bonuses, and there's usually trips and vacations that we like to do. Our industry is a little bit showboaty sometimes, and so there's expenses, right? Let's just pretend in our world that the net revenue is $1 million. Pretty darn good, especially for a $20 million book, mainly because the sales agents left. Because you don't have sales agents, that million would have normally gone 800 plus thousand to those sales agents to pay their payroll to keep them going, get them writing more business. That's awesome, right? $1 million, we made it. We can invest into some things, take some profits for ourselves, live a little bit better of a lifestyle. Here's the downfall. If you're going to cash out, that's great. You can sell it for 2.5 times and get the $2.5 million worth of income and then walk away. Now, that's an option, but most agency owners aren't looking for that type of walkaway income. They want something long-term, or they want to have something growth. They almost want to have a name that they've created for themselves, or they just want a legacy. In this case, let's just say that you're moving out the door anyways, so you're just going to milk it a little bit. Now you're fighting the clock, and here's where that wheel comes into place, where you're now rat on the wheel in the rat race, right? You're trying to get further and farther. So that agency is now fighting the clock for lost business because the average retention is somewhere between 75 and 90%. You're really good if you're 90+% if you can retain and keep those clients. If you're at 75, you're okay. You're doing decent, even 70, sometimes depending on the agency that you're with and the type of business that you wrote is okay. But anything below that is very risky. Let's say, for example, you keep 80% of that business. That million drops 20% the following year. So in 5 years, you've got almost no business left. You can't afford to pay all of the employees to keep the business because it's just not there anymore. You've lost a majority of it. So now you slowly take 5 service people down to 4, down to 3. It'll probably maintain at 2 or 3. So you have some sort of income. But now you can't pay the rent on top of it because you initially had a large building for the rent. Maybe you had some high salaries. Everything's changed. Do you see where I'm getting? This type of business, if you stop writing the business, it dies. So not only that, there's year-end bonuses, or they call them contingency income. It's essentially a 3 to 5% bonus from each carrier that you write with for growth. We're not growing anymore. And if you depended on that income, like some agencies have, you're in a way worse position than you think. Let's say, for example, you have a $20 million book in this scenario, and you used to get 4% cash on the growth. 12% of the average income, right? So you've got the 2 point whatever million. You've grown X amount. Your retention is X amount. It's not just one factor of growth, but there's a ton of different things that make that up. And that piece, each company is going to net you $50 to $100 to $200,000 in ending income. Let's say you had 4 companies that you wrote it with. Now you've got a few $100,000 in additional revenue. Guess what? No sales agents, no revenue, no growth, no bonus. Imagine not only losing 15 to 20% of your business, but now the contingency income that was the bonuses and the extra and we're living the life and we made it is disappeared flat. Unless you hire people to grow the business again, you've almost lost the company. Here's where you kind of get smart. Well, I got to make the money, so I'm going to take this book and I'm going to shift it over here. So I'm going to take what was with company A and transfer it to company B, and that's going to show growth. That's great, but now you're burning bridges with the company. So you get it, right? There's almost a thing that I've noticed, and just pondering the past and seeing just honestly, there is a tight hold that even as an agency owner, you're almost stuck. You have to grow year over year until you cash out. Now, it's a snowball. It's going down the hill, and it's growing, and it's getting bigger and getting bigger, and it just explodes once you hit the wall, which we'll say is retirement. You're walking away. Unless you've built the agency, lots of processes, lots of automation, not necessarily technology, but just people that know what they're doing so you can take yourself out of the picture. Now you've got something that's powerful. That's kind of the goal that we're going for, is we're trying to grow something based off of processes, based off of skill, talent, and training that we can help our agents grow and actually learn what to do. Eventually, one day, 10 years or 20 years down the road, we're going to be able to put our new players in the game and we'll take ourselves out. Then you'll have an agency that's growing and strong on its own without us in general. Unfortunately, that is the kind of rat race that we're stuck in, where if you don't grow, you don't get the extra income. And that extra income plays a very large factor at the end of the day when you're trying to run a business and hire more salespeople. Not getting that could mean you're not hiring the next 2 to 3 sales reps in the following year. If that's the case, how are you going to grow? You almost got to borrow more money or invest more money or take less home in order to have that growth. So that's kind of where our heads were at. We were kind of shooting the shit one day and we were just like, you know what? Honestly, that is crazy. Like, I never thought of it that way, that yes, we own it. And yes, we have a major asset that we have, mainly because of the skill and the training that we have available for agents. And there's a ton of potential. But at the end of the day, we are stuck. These agencies have created almost a stuck pattern to where we have to grow. If you can live without the contingencies and that extra $200,000 to $500,000, then you're fine. You can just maintain and keep the business that you had as long as they don't start taking away your profits. That could happen, and maybe you could lose 1% to 2% just to maintain the book. But honestly, I don't think companies are going to necessarily go at you like that. Sure, if they want you to grow, they could poke you, but they're more afraid that you're going to take that book and put it somewhere else. That's one of the benefits of owning it, is that you have the ability to shift it if need be and focus your customers. Not that you can just tell customers to switch from one company to the next, but you can influence the decisions that they have and at least give them opportunities that maybe company B is offering a better deal because they want company A's business. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are. I'm curious to know if you guys have seen this before, and if it's something that you get. I get it. I don't want to be in that rat race piece. If you're curious about the agency side or the agent's version, I'm going to actually make a video here that goes over the agent's version on how they're also building or stuck in the rat race versus being able to get out of it. Now, the agents themselves actually have a little bit better of an opportunity, which sounds weird. Why wouldn't I want to own it all? I'm going to let you check out my video here where I go over why and how the agents are earning income and how their benefits tend to outweigh the benefits of owning the agency. I'm Mark W. Flockhart. I'll see you soon.